I used to think my life in Pittman was hell. Turns out, it was just purgatory. A waiting room for my real damnation. Pittman, with its crumbling facades and abandoned hopes, is a town that doesn't just flirt with despair. It's married to it, bound in unholy matrimony to the very essence of desolation. Like the town, I was a husk, a 23-year-old shell of a person. Life had long since plucked out any ambitions I had, leaving behind a living echo that drifted from one day to the next. I was the town's go-to loser. The guy you asked it if you needed a lift at 2 a.m. or someone to pick up the tab when the night got too deep and your pockets too shallow. I wasn't just aimless. I was the epitome of lost. A walking, talking embodiment of the word failure. Everyone knew, and nobody hesitated to remind me. They exploited my aimlessness, my inability to say no. I was the errand boy, the late-night drive guy, the he won't mind when they needed someone to mind. My existence was a punchline to a joke that had gotten stale years ago. It was on one of those nights, driving back from an ill-advised favor that led me across the county at 2 a.m., that my headlights caught the silhouette of something at the edge of the forest. Something unnatural. It stood on 2 legs, but was hunched and feral, its eyes gleaming like coals in a funeral pyre, an omen in the darkness. I was terrified, every instinct screaming for me to slam the gas pedal and flee. As our gazes locked, my heart hammered against my ribs so fiercely I feared it might break through. I could almost hear my mother's voice, Warped from beyond the grave, chanting old warnings of creatures that stalked disobedient children who strayed too close to the dark. I was petrified, but my body betrayed me, freezing in place, my hands locked on the wheel in a death grip. The creature took a lumbering step forward, and that was all my frayed nerves could handle. I jerked the wheel hard to the left, my instincts screaming to escape, to put as much distance between myself and this aberration as possible. The car lurched, tires losing their grip on the gravel, as I swerved into the opposite lane and then off the road entirely. There was a moment of terrifying weightlessness as the car tipped, and then a bone-jarring crash as it rolled into the ditch. When the world stopped spinning, I was left hanging from my seatbelt, every part of my body aching. The windshield was a spiderweb of cracks, and through it, I could see the Skinwalker approaching, its movements deliberate, unhurried. I fumbled with the seatbelt, my hands shaking violently. This was it. This was how I was going to die, not with any meaningful last words or heroic deeds, but in a crumpled car at the hands of a creature that should not exist. It was right outside the car now, its breath fogging up the broken glass, its eyes shining with an alien malice. I squeezed my eyes shut, waiting for the end. But the killing blow never came. Instead, there was a whine, a soft, almost plaintive sound that I would never have associated with the monstrosity before me. Cautiously, I opened my eyes. The Skinwalker was sitting back on its haunches, its head cocked to one side, regarding me not as a meal, but with a curiosity that was unsettlingly dog-like. Trembling, I released the seatbelt and fell into the ceiling-turned floor. I pushed the door open, expecting at any moment to feel claws and teeth upon me. But as I staggered out into the night, the creature simply watched. When I slipped in the mud, it rose to its feet, a looming shadow against the moonlight. In a display of eerie intelligence, it nudged my arm with its snout, much like a dog might encourage its owner to continue a game of fetch. My fear was still there, but it was tempered by confusion and a surreal sense of wonder. The beast before me had every opportunity to tear me apart. Yet, here it was, acting as a guardian might. It was in this juxtaposition of terror and gentle gesture that I found myself inexplicably bonding with this enigma. A beast of nightmares showed me a kindness that I hadn't felt from another living being in years. The creature's unexpected mercy marked the beginning of my metamorphosis. In the days that followed, the Skinwalker never strayed far from the periphery of my existence. It was a shadow draped in the skin of nightmares, a silent sentinel that watched from the tree line as I navigated the remnants of my life. Where once I had been ignored or mocked, now an eerie respect took root. People's eyes would slide past me, a flicker of unease betraying their casual nods. They sensed the change, a subtle but unsettling shift in the air around me. The Skinwalker's presence had draped me in an aura of primal dread, a cloak woven from the threads of ancient and unforgotten fears. The beast taught me more about myself than I had ever dared to learn. It was a silent mentor, its very presence forcing me to confront the wilderness within me, a wilderness I had been too afraid to traverse. And in the heart of that wild, dark place, I found a twisted kind of strength. The errands ceased. The late-night calls went unanswered. I was no longer the man who jumped at the chance to be used. The Skinwalker, a being more animal than human, showed me the core of my humanity, a core that had been eaten away by my own willingness to be less. But there was a cost. There's always a cost. With the respect came isolation. People avoided me, sensing that I was no longer alone, that I had become part of something unnatural. The night noises that once seemed so distant were now a chorus outside my window, serenades by creatures that should not be. The world felt darker, the shadows deeper, and in every corner of my vision, I saw movements, flitting shapes that vanished when I turned to face them. Sleep became a rare commodity, chased away by the glowing eyes that watched me from the darkness. Food lost its flavor, and the air seemed thick with a scent of decay. I became gaunt, my skin stretched over sharp bones, my eyes hollow. People whispered of curses, of things that man was not meant to mingle with. They said I was marked, that the beast had claimed me for the realm of shadows. They weren't wrong. The Skinwalker, once my savior, became my warden. It herded me away from the daylight world I had known, away from any path that led back to a normal life. It demanded a kinship, a bonding of blood and spirit that tethered me to the twilight world it inhabited. There were moments, fleeting and as piercing as the chill of winter wind, when I missed my former, insignificant existence. But those moments would vanish with the morning fog, dispelled by the piercing call of my keeper, my companion, my tyrant. And then the disappearances began. Pets at first, then livestock. The townsfolk's whispers grew louder, their glances sharper. Accusations were hurled at my door, along with stones and epithets. They knew, as I did, that the beast's appetite was growing, that its tastes were evolving. I wondered, in the rare, quiet moments, when the Skinwalker roamed elsewhere, how long it would be before the hunger demanded more than what the forest could provide. How long before I was compelled to be not just a companion, but a provider. In this twisted existence, I had found a dark purpose, a reason to be feared if not respected. But at what cost? My very humanity seemed a small price to pay for the power I wielded at the end of a leash made of shadows. The Skinwalker adopted me, yes. It lifted me from the depths of worthlessness, reshaped me into something formidable, something other. But as I stare into the eyes of the abyss that walks beside me, I can't help but wonder, who or what am I becoming?